So now we're going to talk about the web speech API, and there's really two parts to this API, or two concepts. There's speech recognition and speech synthesis. So in this video, we're going to look at speech recognition, which is basically speech to text. So if we talk into the microphone, our application can take that text and do something with it. Speech synthesis, which we'll do in the next video, is text to speech. So if we want to type something in a box and have it read in a certain voice or whatever, we can do that. And there's different reasons why you would want to utilize these APIs. So you might have like an application, for instance, my son is autistic and he has a couple devices with applications where he can push buttons if he's hungry or if he's tired, because he's nonverbal, he can't speak. So he uses that. That's a really good use of this API. And then you have speech to text if you want to be able to talk and then have the words printed out on the screen or get saved into a database, whatever it might be. So we're going to look at speech recognition, and what I want to do is basically create this little project where we say a color and the background changes to that color, and we're going to have an array of accepted colors that can be used or said. And as far as the starter files go, it's just an index.html with an h1, and then we have a link to a style sheet, which is very simple, just to kind of change the font and move the text to the middle. And then we're going to open up our script.js, and we want to initialize a new speech recognition object using the speech recognition constructor. So I'm going to call this variable rec for recognition, and we can set it to new speech recognition, like that. All right, now there's also a WebKit speech recognition, because this might not be available in some older browsers. So what we'll do is up here, we'll create our own variable of speech recognition and set that to, I'm going to use window because it's on the window object. So window.speech recognition, or if that's not available, then we want this to be set to window.webkit WebKit speech recognition. All right, and then right here, we're just going to instantiate it, which will be either this or this, depending on which browser is being used. Now, there's some options we can set, or some properties. One is the language, or lang. So I'm going to set it to en-us, but if you want to set it to something different, if if English isn't your first language, then you can do that here. Then we can also set if we want this to be continuous. So let's say continuous. And basically what this means, I'm going to set it to false for now, but if it's false, once it runs, whether it runs on page load or if you click a button, but once it runs, it listens and then it stops. All right, so that's false. If you set it to true, it'll listen and then it'll keep listening. And that's ultimately what I want to do, because I want to be able to say red, green, blue, and have this change colors. Now for it to start listening, we have to take our object and call the start method. And once I do that, if I save, you're probably going to get a thing that says request to use your microphone. So just click allow. I don't get it because I've already done this. But then you'll see this red dot in the tab, and that basically means that the browser is listening to your microphone or using your camera. Okay, so whenever you see that there. Now, nothing happens with us. Even if I open the console, nothing is happening because we didn't create a handler for what we want to happen once we speak into the mic. And obviously, you have to have a microphone for this to work. I probably should have mentioned that in the beginning. So we can take our rec object and we can create a handler with onResult. So we're going to set that to a function. We'll pass in an event object here, and then for now I'm going to console log e.results. So let's do that, and I'm going to just reload and say a color, blue. And now down here you're going to see this object that pops up, actually an array, and it's going to have an object in it. Let's see, right here. So there's this transcript value, and it says blue because that's what it heard me say. And since it's set to false, I said blue, it logged it, and then it stopped. So if we want it to keep logging, then we would set this to true, blue, red, green. Okay, so now you can see it's going to keep listening and it's going to keep creating these objects. So this first one, or this first item in the array, if we look in here, is blue. If we look in this next one, red. If we look in this next one, so, and basically like once I stop talking, it'll create a new array. So blue, that one should be red, and then this one, green. All right, so that we want to utilize this to get those transcripts and make the background color whatever was said. All right, now notice that like right here, there's a space before red, so we do have to keep that in mind. If we're creating an array of accepted colors, then we have to make sure we trim the white space off of this value. Sometimes they have capital letters as well, so we have to take that into account as well. All right, so, and if I wanted to just log just what I said, we could take results and we could say just 0 and then dot transcript. And if we set this to false, blue. Okay, so that's undefined. That's because we have to do 0, 0, blue. Now, if I say anything else, it's not listening anymore, and you can see that red dot is gone. So, like I said, I want to be able to keep saying colors. So we're going to set this to true, and it's not just as simple as that. Like if we try this out, blue, red, green. See, basically it's just showing the same thing over and over because this is static, right? I'm just showing the first element in the array. So we need to create a loop. So let's say we'll do a for loop here, and we're going to say as let I, and we're going to initially set this to e.result index, and then say as long as I is less than e.results.length, which is the length of the array. So as long as there's elements in the array, we want to keep going, and we want to increment by 1. And then in here, let's create a variable. We'll call it, let's just call it script. And we'll set that to e.results. And then the index, the first index, is going to be dynamic. It's going to be whatever that I variable is. But then we want the first element in there. All right. And then remember, that's an object that has a transcript on it. And that's what we say. So let's try that. Red. Oh, I didn't log anything. Let's console log script. All right. Red. Blue. Green. So now you can see that it's listening to me. And it's just going to put whatever I say. Now, there's certain words where you can see that there's actually some space here, and sometimes it'll actually be a capital letter. So what I'm going to do is this script, I'm going to add onto this 2 lowercase, and then I'm also going to add trim, which will trim any white space. So now blue, red, green. So now it should all be lowercase, and there should be no extra white space. And I'm doing this because I want this to be, these have to be colors that match a color inside of an accepted colors array. So we'll put that above the, let's see, we'll put that right above the loop here. So let's say const accepted colors. And we'll set that to an array. And then I'm just going to grab a bunch of colors here and paste them in. And if you want to put other ones, of course, you can do that. So then let's come down here. I'm going to get rid of the console log so it stops printing what I'm saying. and then I want to make sure that the color that's spoken in, it matches one of the colors in the array. So let's say if, and what we can do is say if accepted colors dot includes script, so whatever we say, then I'm going to take the document dot body dot style dot background color, and if you want to do something else, you can experiment with it. So we're going to set that to whatever is spoken, which is script. Else, then let's just do an alert and say please say a color, and that should do it. So let's try it out. Red, green, blue, black, orange, test, and there we go. So now test obviously isn't a valid color, it's not in this array, so we get an alert, and we can keep going. Brown, it must have heard me say something else. Brown, yep, there we go. All right, so I mean, it's not the most intuitive application in the world, but I think this is pretty cool. I think that there's a lot of stuff you could do with this, so have fun with it, play around with it. In the next video, we're going to look at the other aspect of the speech API, which is the speech synthesis.